Hello, everyone, and welcome to lesson 6 in my Unusual Whales tutorial series. In this lesson, I'm going to cover charts and indicators. So I'm going to take you through a couple of trades and spend a little bit of extra time talking about the actual chart indicators that I use. And you'll find this video posted, of course, on YouTube. And I'll share it on my Twitter account, Market Monk Picks, and I'll provide a link to the Discord where you can find my picks and analysis, and also some links to all the different resources I use in TradingView. Now, one thing I'll say, you don't have to use my exact settings and indicators to be successful. This is just an example of what you can do. But I do think that the approach I use to charts is something that might be able to help you, especially new traders. There are so many different indicators and averages that you can use, but I just wanted to go over a couple that have really worked well for me as I've gotten better at trading. So first of all, I just want to take you to my Discord page and just sort of map out how this whole process works. So what I typically do yesterday after hours, I start digging through the Unusual Whales flow towards the end of the day, and I try to find some stocks that I think are going to have potentially a pretty good day the next day. I mostly play calls. So, some traders will have call and put triggers on the same stock. And, that works really well. And there's a couple of them that I'm going to be reviewing in a future lesson where I talk about some other traders I really respect and whose resources have done a lot for me. Your boy Milt being one of them. I went over red hot trades and fire fishing last time. So I try to really keep tabs on who's out there and who has some really useful methods for applying the Unusual Whales tools. And but for me, I dig through the flow. I try to find bullish flow, a lot of purchases of out of the money call options for this week and next week. Gives me some sense of what might take place the next day. So one that I identified yesterday was Mara, and the flow looked pretty good. I noticed a lot of dip buying as the stock was falling. So I thought this could potentially be a trade that I would enter. I wanted to see how it opened and went from there. Some other things I do, I go through some of the whale alerts that looked particularly interesting to me, and I did actually enter one of those on Oxy, which I'll also go over. So okay, so that gives me just a few stocks to focus on. I'll usually trade QQQ a few times throughout the day. It's just an ETF I know really well. You could trade SPY. There's a number of others, but I think one piece of advice I would give is find 2 or 3 or 4 tickers that you're going to really focus on that day. If something comes up intraday and as you're reading flow and you jump into it, that's fine. That happens as well. But you don't want to try to track 10 or 15 tickers a day. Okay, so Mara. I did end up entering Mara, and I put all my alerts here. And I put Mara 11/19/55 call. It's 265. I said risky, go small. It's a crypto stock. It had been down the day before, so I just wanted to exercise some caution there. Okay, so here's what happened. So here's my chart, and you can see that I alerted this, pretty early. It was right around open. And let me get the exact time for us here. So it was about 8:32. So it was right as the market opened. Well, why did I enter that? Well, here's here's TradingView, and here is what I was looking at. So we'll go to the 3-minute chart and really zoom in here. Okay, so it opened with, I looked at its pre-market moves here, and obviously it had been declining significantly the previous day, a little bit more into pre-market. I get up about 4 a.m. Central and start, seeing what these stocks do. I go back to sleep, and then I wake up and look, is there any momentum going into open? And it did spike a bit, sold off again. But I was looking for three things. One is, does it have a little bit of momentum going into open? And it did. If it then sells off or has some indecision, there's a couple of things I'm looking for. One is there significant volume? And there was. And so in TradingView, I have this volume bar that's very helpful. It's just, just right there. So we have this doji candle, and I am not an expert at technical analysis. So if any of my terminologies are wrong, I mean, I apologize for that. But I just do want to say what I look for. So this candle, could kind of go either way. But for me, when I know that the flow is really bullish going into the day, that I have some confidence that it's going to go up. And the amount of volume here was a nice indicator of that. And by the way, to install that, you go to indicators. It's one of the built-ins. You just type volume, and it's this one that's just called volume. There's a lot of really useful community scripts in TradingView, and you just kind of have to play around with those and decide which ones that you like. But again, to keep it simple, I think you just need one volume indicator. You don't want your chart just filled with stuff. So volume is a big one. I need to see some significant volume that's what's going to push it higher. So I entered here, and I actually, a lot of people don't do this, but I do go down to the 1-minute chart. You don't want to trade on a 1-minute chart too aggressively. Like it can really burn you when you do that, because it gives you a lot of false signals. But there's one thing in particular I do look for on the 1-minute chart. After I see a 3-minute setup that I like, I look at the 1-minute chart, and I'm looking at the RSI, Relative Strength Index. And this is going to tell you if a stock is oversold or overbought. If it's oversold, the RSI will dip, and you can see it started the day really low, which was actually good, which is what I wanted. And then it was down here under 40. So that to me was a good time to enter. If Marathon had run up in the pre-market and it opened like up here in the RSI with an RSI over 70, I would not enter that trade with a call. I would wait, see what it does, look for a sell-off, and then I would enter. And to install the RSI, the indicator that I use for that, it's another built-in. It's just called, you just type RSI, and it's just Relative Strength Index. And again, there's a bunch of different ones you can look at and try, but I think volume and RSI for any trader, I think you need to have that. So I entered here, and it did really well. I didn't exit at the top here, but maybe around right here where the RSI started to get a little bit hot. I sold part of my position and kept a little bit, and I sold here right when it started to dip down. I mean, I obviously didn't know that it was going to go back up. Mara did actually present another good entry right here. I did not re-enter, but this is often a good time to look to enter a trade if you don't want to play right at market open because it's so volatile. Just see what it does. I mean, if a stock spikes, it's going to pull back, and it might not pull back this much, but it can pull back, give you an entry. Again, as long as the RSI isn't too hot, you can then jump back in. All right, so those are two indicators that are important to me: RSI and volume. I look for volume. Volume is what really pushes these candles higher, and you can see it happening as you go. So let me go back to the 3 minute again. Okay, so then drag over here, and okay, so that's that. So what is this green, this bright green bar? Let's talk about that. That is a whole moving average, and it's actually a little bit more useful on some of the higher time frames. And okay, so this is the hour chart on Mara. Let me actually go to the day, and I'm going to go to a different stock, because this one on the day chart is just kind of a mess. But it was a good day trade for me. But when I'm looking at kind of a longer term trend on a stock, go to Macy's. Okay, yeah, Macy's is a good example of this. So this bright green here, and you'll see it's red. This is a whole moving average. And there are a lot of different moving averages that you can use. I use the whole moving average because it is a fast and smooth moving average, and it reduces some lag between the calculations of the previous price and the current price. So simple moving average lags the most. Exponential and weighted moving averages address lag by placing more emphasis on recent price data. The whole moving average even kind of improves upon that. And I don't quite understand all of the math behind it, but the main thing that I'm looking for here is an average that's going to indicate a trend. When the whole moving average is rising, the prevailing trend is rising, meaning that it's a time to enter long positions. If it's falling, the prevailing trend is falling, and it's better to enter short positions. So with Macy's, Macy's has earnings this week on Thursday before market open, and you can see that it's been on an uptrend really since August, and it's dipped a few times, but it had this cross here on August 6th, and kind of has been going up ever since. It's running really hot. You can see the RSI here. So I'm in a Macy's swing right now. I'm keeping it up to earnings. I might play a few earnings. I haven't really decided yet, but the whole moving average, I look for the stock to break and stay above that line. So on the 3 minute chart, we can see that it opened the day down. It had this whole cross. I don't recommend just playing whole crosses because it's really more about giving an indication of a trend, and you can see it kind of dips back and forth between them. But I look for a stock to kind of hug that line, and it's a useful indicator for me for that. So I do recommend using a moving average of some type, and you can see here, like when it switches to red, this indicates some weakness in the trend, although it wasn't particularly steep. So this was a moment of consolidation, and it did actually recover and push back up. And you'll find that in this average will have a kind of steep drop when a stock is selling off, and it'll give you an indication of an intraday trend. So so PayPal had this really steep drop off. One thing about PayPal, I didn't enter this today. I was just focused on some other stocks, but I knew that PayPal did have bullish flow. So if I were to enter it, these steep sell-offs like this are actually what I look for, because they can provide a good entry into a position. And you can see here, the RSI dipped as it sold off. You have these big fat red candles. QQQ and SPY were doing pretty well today, so the ETFs were fine. So this actually would have been a safe entry into PayPal. And anywhere really around here, you can start to scale in, or if you just buy one, you can try to catch an uptrend, move your stop loss up as you go, and you can see it had a really nice day and really nice finish. So so the whole average is useful for trends. So far we've had volume as something I use. We have the RSI, and then the whole average. There's a bunch of these. The one that I use is, I think, this one called Whole Suite Strategy by Dash Trader. I liked it just because it had these thick lines with it. And so that's something I use as well to identify trends. The entry is more about RSI for me, but the whole average is useful for trends, especially when a trend starts to weaken. So like PayPal crossed here, but the whole average didn't really dip. So that would probably give me some confidence to stay in a trade if I hadn't sold off all of it up here, and then it goes up from there. All right, so those are all indicators. Those three are free, so you can do pretty well, I think just with those. Something else I use, and that works pretty well. You see these buy and sell signals here, and these are AI signals, which is an invite only script, and I pay for this. I don't remember how much I pay for it. I think it's like $30 a month or something. And I don't. By the way, I'm not a partner with them or anything, so I'm not selling you a product. But people ask me about this, and this is what I use. It's a AI signals called GetaiSignals. You can go to their site and check it out and see if it's something that you want to do. And it's really good. I mean, honestly, I'm happy with it. I started using it when I started trading options after researching it, just because I wasn't that strong with technical analysis, and I just wanted kind of a help with sort of a cheat sheet for entering trades. And you'll find that it works better with some stocks than others. It's actually really good with QQQ. I'll often enter actually before I do get the buy signal, because sometimes it'll give you a buy signal and it's already kind of had its run. But I sort of know what I'm looking for with QQQ by this point. But in any case, like if you were to back test 3-minute buy signals on QQQ, you'll find that it has a pretty good win rate. And but really, to me, more than the buy signals, it's this I don't know what to call it, like netting or something, where it starts to give you an indication of the trend. So all of this green here was really strong. Some red starts to push back. And when you see this live, it's really interesting to watch these patterns take shape. And you start to see some weakness, and then the netting flips back green, and it goes back up. It's when this red pressure starts, it's time to start thinking about exiting a trade or trimming some profits. And if I want to stay in and leave some runners, I look for it to flip back green. You can see it did that today. We had some really good trades on QQQ. You can see I alerted right at open. I think I sold the last one of that. And it went, it went to 162, and then, which was 100% gains. And then my last runner on that was, I don't remember. It went up. It went higher. Stonks go up, as they say. But yeah, so we did really well with that. I actually entered QQQ a couple other times. You know, right here towards close, it started to sell off. But as I looked in the flow, I saw there was some bullish momentum still. So so I thought it might go back up. So we scalped that again. Okay, so those are my indicators. I keep it simple. There's really three. Well, four, I guess, but two are kind of related. So there's RSI. It's essential. I think you need to have it somewhere. This is my setup. If you're in TrendSpider or something else, you can get that. And volume, I want to know, you know, how the volume's looking. I use a whole moving average. I recommend using a moving average of some type. And AI signals. I use that. Yeah, I don't think you have to. Anything that you spend money on monthly, I think you want to make sure that your profits are more than covering it for it to really be worth it. I could probably get by without AI signals at this point, but it's been working for me, so so I do use it. So those are my signals. I'll provide some links to all of that. A link explaining the whole moving average. And again, the reason I use that one is that it indicates trends at different levels, but also reduces lag more so than a simple moving average or some of the other ones. So that's why I use that one in particular. So okay, so that's it. Now I'm going to be live streaming my trading on Friday morning. So be looking for a link to that. And my next lesson, which will be lesson 7, I guess, is going to cover dark pool data, how I use that in unusual whales. And then after that, I'm going to be profiling some resources from particular traders that I found useful. If you have ideas for other lessons you want to see, definitely let me know. That's how this one came about. So I was happy to share that. If you have any questions at any time, of course, you know, just let me know, and I'm happy to share what I've learned. Again, you can find me at Market Monk Picks on Twitter. Link to my Discord in the Discord group where I post is in my video description. And everybody have a great rest of the week trading. Don't play too many earnings. They are fun, but go small on those. Trade safely, and I'll see you on the next one.